and welcome back to Barcelona and welcome to the F1 paddock. We have now completed 2 days of track running and there's plenty to discuss. Sam Collins, Jolyon Palmer with me as always. And Sam, parts have been arriving. You've been busy in the pit lane. Still so much going on. Yeah, I've been playing my favourite game of what's in the box. You sort of see a box coming down this centre section of the paddock and you sort of follow it to see which team it's going to and trying to work out from the shape of the box what's inside, because those are the new parts, the upgraded parts coming for each individual team. Sometimes you can tell from the shape of the box what it is. Sometimes it's a little bit like a kid at Christmas. You don't quite know what's inside till the car goes out on track and there's the new shiny piece that we've got to go and take pictures of and analyse in other shows like Tech Talk. Exactly, always easy to spot the flaw. Jolyon, yesterday you were saying that McLaren and Ferrari were the ones to watch, and so it proved today. McLaren fastest in the morning session with Daniel Ricciardo, and then Charles Leclerc fastest in the Ferrari in the afternoon. That's what you were predicting.
I was bang on.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised. Damn it, you got it right.
But is it watching again out on track today, they look really good. The McLaren and the Ferrari look really confidence-inspiring for the drivers, I think. Charles Leclerc really hustling it today, this afternoon when he got in. Carlos Sainz very happy this morning. McLaren still ticking along. Daniel Ricciardo in that car today, taking over from Lando. It's happy days there, I think.
I think the one thing we weren't probably expecting to talk about today was porpoising. It's the buzzword for 2022. Why are we still talking about it, Sam? Why haven't the teams been able to get on top of it? And let's go back again and just revisit what porpoising really is. So this actually takes us even further back to the origins of these rules, the ground effect cars. So to be very simple terms, what Formula One has done has turned the entire floor of the car into one giant wing, and that sucks the car down onto the road and it sticks and gives you a load more grip. However, if you get a bit too much grip at one end of the car, particularly at the rear, what happens is the floor gets closer and closer and closer to the ground. The downforce goes up, it sucks it down even more till it runs out. It hits the floor, runs out of downforce, and suddenly all the downforce is gone. It goes scooting back up into the air, and then it's got all the downforce again and sucks itself back down. And suddenly you get this weird oscillation, which looks a bit like a sort of sea animal jumping through waves off the coast here. Hence the term porpoising, which was coined by Mario Andretti testing at Silverstone, wasn't it? With the Lotus Type 80. A long time ago. You told me that earlier and I went and looked it up and it was absolutely spot on. So very impressive knowledge there. I like how you to double check though. It has been the word of the day and of yesterday, and several drivers experiencing it out on track. We heard from Pierre Gasly and George Russell. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Yuki mentioned the porpoising and how it feels to drive. Is that something you noticed this afternoon?
Yeah. Well, Yuki gives too much information. For sure we have a couple of issues and stuff we need to sort out, but we know we are not the only one in having this kind of problem. So it's I would say. I'm more looking at my feelings and trying to understand what I need from the car, and that's what I'll focus on over the next few tests. But so far it's been a great start.
New car, new tyres, different dynamic out there. I think you can see quite some substantial issues with some of the cars in the straights and the bottoming. So this is a compromise we need to find to go quickest around the lap, and it's something I don't think any teams have experienced before. But we're seeing some interesting things out there, so that's what testing's for. Some teams are looking pretty fast. A red team and an orange team in particular look very, very competitive. So let's see what tomorrow brings and what we can do between this test and Bahrain. Porpoising. I've never said that word as much as I have in the last 48 hours. And
Jolyon said it before.
I don't think I've ever said it, no, you're right. It's such a weird word. Yuki Tsunoda saying he's losing some memory cells. I'm also losing memory cells because he's being bounced around a bit. What is it going to be like for the drivers? Are they going to be having physio tonight to try and sort that out?
I don't know, it's going to be carnage. I mean, that's a lot of bumps and abrasion that they've got to take strapped into the car. They sit pretty much on the ground, and I've never had the porpoising effect, but you have it when the car's bottoming out and little curb strikes here or there or just bumps on the road. It's really sore. Your back, their necks as well are going up and down, and they're doing a lot of laps. So it's actually really surprising they're not complaining a bit more, because that looks really aggressive.
Yeah, I was so surprised to see how much the driver's head, you can see it from the sort of the visor strip, how much it's moving. And of course, me being me, I didn't think about the driver's health and fitness. I was thinking about
my word, the fatigue, the potential for fatigue on components, I can't even say it.
2 days getting to
Yeah,
Sam.
exactly. The fatigue on, which is where you get a little cracking on the rear suspension parts, particularly as it's bouncing up and down repeatedly. That's really not good for the car. But also, you mentioned the driver in the cockpit. Now I think about it, and I did have a quick word with Carlos Sainz's physio just before we came on air, and just sort of said, well, what's it like? Oh yeah, he hasn't looked at it yet, but he will do. But I start thinking, well, you've got these 6-point harnesses in the cockpit, and they sort of come over your legs, between your legs, and around your belly and over your shoulders. If the driver's moving around that much, there could be some physical consequences, particularly where some of those belts are located, that may not be particularly comfortable for the drivers when they get back to the hotel tonight.
Jolyon,
You're taking a lot in your head and your neck, I think, and you hope that the body is still just harnessed as it was and the belts aren't slackening. But it's a lot, and all the cars, pretty much. We saw the Ferrari, but they're all doing it to an extent. Some of them are worse than others. When they have the DRS open, it's a little bit better. They've got probably less load on the rear of the car, so it's not sitting down quite as much to exaggerate the effect. So anyone that's not running that gets a bit more, as we saw in that clip. But it's a lot. But in all of it, they're still doing over 100 laps. Only 2 teams, Red Bull and Alfa Romeo, today didn't hit the 100 laps, but that's really good. So it's not the be-all and end-all in spite of all that.
So maybe the drivers are just going to have to get used to it. Now, I hate to say it again, but you were right about the McLaren Ferrari thing, and George Russell backing that up, saying that they're faster than them at the moment. What are we thinking then? Where's this championship heading, or is it way too early to head that way? Sorry, I have to just talk about it. I'm getting excited.
We all are. But it's such early days. It's really early. McLaren and Ferrari, from the word go, looked out on track. I thought they just look really good. The drivers have got confidence. They can hustle it. They can turn in. The cars look a little bit understeery at times as well, and they've got a lot of turn-in, which is really helping them get on the gas. They look good. Mercedes has looked good at times as well, and George had a decent run this afternoon. Lewis looked quite out of sorts this morning, was fighting the car a lot. They're changing the suspension a little bit to probably combat this porpoising as well. And Red Bull are really under the radar. I looked at them yesterday, and I just thought they must be running a lot of fuel. The car looked a little bit lazy, looked a bit heavy, and Max was driving, so there's not going to be a problem with the guy sitting at the wheel. But again, Checo today with problems, gearbox issue, not hitting the 100 laps. So the 2 rivals from last year may be under a bit of threat, but it's early days.
Well, yeah. I saw that Red Bull had actually, when I was playing the What's in the Box, quite a lot of those boxes did go into the Red Bull, the back of the Red Bull garage. They did get a new floor. There were some other big boxes I couldn't identify going in there. They have bought some new parts onto that car. And just looking at the team and looking at the way the car's been out there on track, I'm just not sure that they're all that comfortable with the way that RB18 is operating. The other team, though, that's done something really weird, and that you guys were talking about before, McLaren. That car was doing lap after lap with the car sparking away, just completely glued to the floor, and no sign of the dreaded aquatic mammals.
Porpoising. I'm wondering how many times you said it. Maybe someone will be counting for us. Do let us know. So we can hear then from Carlos Sainz, who's been talking a bit about the progress that Ferrari are making. I think everyone trying to just keep their levels of excitement tempered, as I'm trying to do. Let's hear from Carlos.
Let's see if it's a good start when we go to a race and see how it goes. But for sure, a day and a half without problems in the car, managing to complete the whole run plan and doing plenty of laps is a good start, especially here in Barcelona. I'm so happy to do all the laps that I've done.
For a few laps yesterday, we saw you following Max, and I think you did a few pretty close to Fernando as well. What's following feeling like?
Yeah, did that on purpose, obviously, and I can tell you I already felt some differences. It's pretty obvious already, and I'm relatively positive about it.
Ferrari then definitely, probably, maybe ones to watch. The thing I think I've taken away from today is obviously we had some red flags, but the number of laps we have completed, actually, it's minuscule, those red flags, in terms of the time spent.
Well, 2 today. One was for Checo Perez with his gearbox. The other one was a fuel line issue for Nikita Mazepin in the Haas. But Haas still got over 100 laps today, still did a lot. And everyone seems to be getting some. Valtteri Bottas has barely actually driven the car. He's still done less than 50 laps, and he was in this morning. But at least Zhou this afternoon managed to get a good run in. Looking at him out on track, started a little bit tentative, as you'd probably expect. First time in a Formula 1 car for him this year. But he's built up a bit of pace and got there. So the field looks to be converging a little bit.
And then we look ahead to tomorrow, the 3rd and final day here in Barcelona. Sam, what are you going to be looking at tomorrow? Because we've got wet weather not necessarily coming from up there, but definitely we'll be having a wet track tomorrow.
I'm going to be looking at a bunch of, around lunchtime, I'm going to be looking at a bunch of big white water tankers racing down the start-finish straight and spraying the track with water, because if it doesn't rain, and it doesn't look like it's naturally going to rain, the track is going to be artificially wetted, so the teams, and particularly Pirelli, who need to find out what the wet and intermediate tyres do on these new cars, running them on an artificially wetted track. However, some teams will be taking less information away from that test than others, and those are the teams that basically tested at Silverstone and did a shakedown at Silverstone, because as it always is at Silverstone this time of year, it was wet when they were running. Also, Misano, when the AlphaTauri was running, was absolutely soaking wet as well. Very bad weather across Europe, and that means some of these teams have already had that wet weather running. So that will be interesting to see. But with the raised ride heights that you see with the wet tyres, will the cars still be porpoising? So when it's wet, will you see porpoises? That's the question.
Oh my gosh, we're going all aquatic. Joe, I know you didn't really do much wet weather testing. In fact, hardly any. We didn't really have it when you were in the game. What will the drivers be gaining from it, though, in terms of the approach and learning about those tyres?
A little bit of feel on the wet side. It's a bit rubbish when you come in with a new car. You don't want to drive it in the wet, and the conditions are changing. If it's chilly like it is now, then it might stay wet for a while. They want to be out there on
Checo said to me he hopes it dries up quickly because he's good, not Max.
And only one driver is going to be having the half day wet. The other one's going to be having the half day dry. Everyone's going to be hoping that they get the dry one. I don't think they're going to have a choice. Someone's got to take the wet. At least it's a feel for the tyres. New construction, there's something in that, but always with the wet, it depends how much water's down, the nature of the circuit, how much rubber's down. There's so many variables. So just because you drove it here, it doesn't matter that you think you know where you're at when it's rainy in Imola on Saturday.
Or in Spa.
Or Spa.
Yeah, who knows?
It will make very little difference. But it's a run for Pirelli as well to see what the tyre's like.
Exactly. Well, plenty more to look forward to. We've got another day here in Barcelona ahead of course, the official test in Bahrain. Sam, thank you very much. Jolyon, thank you very much. One more day to go. Join us again tomorrow at the end of day 3. Goodbye.
How is it I can't say fatigue, which I say all the time, but I can say aquatic mammals?
You're a miraculous creature. Almost as miraculous as a narwhal. That's another
Oh,
type.
I love narwhals.
Yeah.
There's a great song about them.